You haven't approved any reserve fund transfers, so right now you have a balance of $150,000 in the reserve fund. And the first transfer request tonight is from the treasurer collector, and I know Wendy is on. This is for $7,500 for some part-time help in the office. Wendy?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting and thanks for considering this. Most recently, I started in September, and when I started, it was already moved or discussed that the person that does payroll would more likely than not be starting to train for HR. In that process, we've moved her upstairs to start training her, leaving our office down one person. It was definitely challenging during the tax season with real estate being due February 1st and the motor vehicle bills being mailed on February 18th. I did submit a request for an 18-hour position, 3 days a week. In the department discussion, we were asking for Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from either 8:30 to 1:30 or 9 to 3, pending on who applied. We did have one person apply that I was really interested in. She was a clerical person in the town of Attleboro, and I was thinking that I was going to call her for an interview. In process, when I messaged the town manager and the assistant to the town manager, it was told to me that I didn't have enough funds, and being new, I really didn't know what my balances were in the accounts at the time. But they told me that I could ask you and that you would maybe consider doing a transfer for the $7,500 for the 3 days a week clerical position.
So this is funding it from, I assume now, to the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, that would be till June 30th. And like I said, I did submit it in my budget for a part-time 18-hour position. Some people say that 18 hours isn't benefit level. Some people say it is. So I'm not really sure where it falls under, which contract or which employment agreement. But I definitely would, the process in the department is we have a clerical person that's very capable, but she also has taken on doing the receipts and whatnot. Kind of sometimes is hard early in the morning when she's posting all the downloads from the online payments. And if the phone and the counter are busy, and where my assistant and myself are kind of on time limits or time restraints as far as, submitting things in a timely manner into the town accountant's office or the town manager's office. It's very intrusive and interrupting for us to come out of our offices to go and do the counter. We do, and we make it work. And I will say that Mr. Units did ask me if we moved Jen upstairs, and I said we would make it work. And we have, and we will, but it was extremely hard and very time consuming to do it. So he did question me before we brought Jen upstairs, and I said we would make it work. And we did. And we're almost halfway. We're through the February 1st payment. And we have one commitment out for the mail for the motor vehicles. That's due March 18th. And then we have another commitment that we were told that would probably be dropped the beginning of April for motor vehicles.
Wendy, is this a totally new position?
From my understanding, Paula had told me she had a part-time position prior. I did go on the budgets prior, and I came home and I forgot that paper on my desk. My intent was to go to the meeting, but I really have been under the weather. And I was kind of tired, so I asked Mike for permission to join by Zoom, and he graciously granted that permission. I believe it was 2019 that we did, and it went up to like 2023, I think. And from my understanding, it didn't get filled for the 24 year. But I don't, somebody that's been there longer, I just started September 6th as a part-time, like learning the job, and then appointed on September 16th. So I'm not really familiar on how that work. I see that James is here. James could probably answer that question better than I could.
Hello.
Hi, James.
Hi, can I talk?
Absolutely. Well,
So that position a while ago used to be full time at one point. Then it was reduced to part time during the recession years, and eventually was completely cut out. It is my belief that that's not sustainable to have the office short staffed. That extra 18 hours will go a long way in helping the office operate better than what it is right now. So I hope you guys do consider transferring those funds and reestablishing that position there, even if it's only part-time.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Yunus? If the position can't be funded next fiscal year, are we gonna be responsible for any kind of severance or any kind of unemployment stuff?
There'd be no severance. Person could apply for unemployment, but there'd be no severance.
Madam Chair? So I understand, you had a person there, then you moved that person to a different position?
we moved a full-time position upstairs. She still falls under the reams of the tax collector treasurer, but I guess there was talk prior to me coming that maybe we might be able to get an HR position sometime in the future. So we wanted to train her to do that as well. And so she moved upstairs where she could focus more on training and less interruptions and take on a few other duties as far as the HR person went. And so she's upstairs. So it kind of, she does work in my office physically. Well, it's not really my office. It's the town of Norton's treasure collector's office, but she does work there from 8:30 to 9:30 while Nancy pulls the reports. And Nancy does get to pull the reports, but it makes it very hard in the course of the day if like we got bombarded with the motor vehicle bills and the real estate bills.
Madam Chair,
You go ahead.
I'm just wondering, maybe Mike can speak to the rationale. I think Zach's question was that position, it got transferred from this budget to do HR work?
It
No,
didn't get transferred from the budget.
there's-
Apologize.
There's a position in the treasurer's office, and she handles all the benefits for employees. Employees that are going out on FMLA, she handles that. So she splits her time. She goes upstairs to work on that human resource angle of her position, so she can talk with people in a private setting.
So what was the rationale then if there's so much work to be done that position couldn't be, it's valuable for part-time. What was the rationale to move it to fill so many hours in an HR position?
Because she was doing the HR work in the office anyways. And it just, when she's doing that work now, she goes upstairs into an office we set up for her up there so she can have privacy when she's talking to people about their benefits and, anything to do with that.
But up until this year, we'll say, that position was how many hours in the treasurer's department versus this HR position?
Well, she was always in the treasurer's department. And I can't tell you how many hours she spent working on HR stuff while in the treasurer's office.
Madam Chair, this is James again. The position is the payroll position. It's not a new position. And usually what used to happen was that the payroll person would help out the window when it got really busy during tax time. However, the position has gotten more complicated with benefits and everything else. And so she has to go to a private office occasionally so that she can discuss HIPAA protected subjects when she's talking to the employees. But she was not removed from the treasurer's budget. That position is fully funded as a full-time payroll administrator. I don't know if they changed the title to the position or not, but that's the same position that's always been there. The position that was eliminated was a part-time clerk that used to help at the window. That used to be full-time at one point. Then he got cut, and then he never got funded again. But there was always hope that it would be funded. Unfortunately, things are getting really hectic, and there is a lot of work, a lot of foot traffic, and I believe that it is needed. That's my belief, and it has nothing to do with the payroll position. The lady that does the payroll will still be doing the payroll, whether this position is funded or not.
No, but I think what I'm hearing is at that point, everyone had a comfort level that this position could fill as a resource to the treasurer's department, and now that seems to have gone away. And I'm trying to figure out the original justification for that position, sharing the HR and the treasury side, but now we need another part-time to really fill that role.
I believe that whether or not the lady that does the payroll at the old town hall, as you know, we didn't have space, so she had to be in the treasurer's office all the time because there was no other office. And if she had to speak with someone, she would either have to go into the town manager's office to talk to someone privately. It was kind of a pain to do back in the day. Now that we have more space, she's been listing hours upstairs, and the hope was that she could have her office upstairs, come downstairs and help when it gets really hectic, but also have the part-time position. The part-time position would be in addition to having the payroll person there. The need is there, whether that lady is upstairs a couple of hours a day or not.
All right, and then for next year's budget that we're working on now, is this going to be
It will be
the
part of the budget.
same number of hours in the budget? Or is it gonna be more than?
18 hours a week.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, sorry.
sorry about that. It's been a long day, so I apologize if I don't understand. Things keep going back and forth. It sounds like the position was open for a year ago. Position was filled for a couple of years and it hasn't been filled since 2023. If I understand correctly.
Madam Chair? Correct. So the position was there, and the payroll position hasn't changed its role, other than we have an office for her to go into to do some of the private stuff. But in addition to the payroll, when she was downstairs all the time, sometimes she'd have to go to the window because this part-time position had been cut.
Okay.
But this part-time position being added back in, she could concentrate more on the payroll aspect.
It wasn't in the budget for the last year or two. Okay, so it's a new position as far as money.
Mhm.
I think we're gonna be talking about layoffs this year. Given if we only have a 3% increase and we're negative in the deficit by what, 600,000? So I won't speak for everyone, but I think any new positions isn't a very good idea at this moment, given where we are.
Well, I was just gonna say that, I'm wondering if we can wait and see what the budget looks like for this department, coming up, right, for the next fiscal year. And then see if we could then, if we do decide to fill it for next year, consider supplementing this year as well. But it's hard to get, again, that full picture where we don't know if this house is gonna fit into next year's budget and where we're, about to discuss all that. It seems like we maybe should wait a few weeks to see where that's gonna land.
Can I add one more thing? Sorry. I've already had someone from the senior center come to me and ask about an additional position for director, and I said, well, just said things are tight, so I think if people other departments start to hear, oh, positions are being added, think it starts, setting that precedent.
Yeah, fair point.
Madam Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Bill.
Madam Chair, I have the same sentiment as you. We don't know where this is going. Just to bring somebody in, have to lay them off, doesn't make much sense. So I would say, I'll make it simple. I'll propose a motion to table this to a later meeting, to see where the budgets lay, and then we can decide if we do have money. And we can approve this for this year, delay it for, 30 days, and bring it back to another meeting.
How does everyone else feel about that?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mike, this person's already here, right?
No.
This person is not here. Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, I had a motion to table on the floor. Seconded.
Second.
Okay, there's a second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second, I'll go to roll call, Brandon,
Yes.
Trace, yes, Adam,
Yes. Yes.
Paul, Bonnie,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
okay, yes as well.
All
So I
right.
guess, what, do you wanna set like a date after this budget is approved for town meeting, we'll come back.
I don't know what the
revisit?
schedule is for the budgets. Mike can set it, based on when he proposes everything, when we have the final draft. Put this one in front.
What's next, Mike?
Okay, next is reserve fund request for legal services. Right now, there's $5,622 left in the account. And with the bills we have, would be a negative 9,000. So we looked at what the average was costing us per month. And if we stick to that, it would be around $55,000 to get to the end of the year.
The driver of these additional funds above the budget. If in particular is on case, if they're political cases, litigation.
I know a lot of it's been in the planning board. There's been a lot of appeals, so I know there's been at least 14,000 going towards that. And I know the police department's had a couple cases that legal's been working on that been about $10,000. And then the rest is just the general legal services, a lot of work on the election, and then a lot of work on different public records requests that legal had to review. But nothing that, other than the police and the planning board, nothing that stands out as a major case right now.
And to refresh my memory, how much was this last year? How much did we approve for this last year?
Last year,
How much money we spent, I guess?
Yep.
What's the same thing? Question.
well, let's see. So in FY24, we spent 96,000. We appropriated for FY25, 70,000. And as of December, we had spent 31,000.
Madam Chair.
Heard Paul, Steve Douglas, go ahead, Steve. Steve, you can go ahead.
Oh, so, okay. Mike, is there a listing of all of the cases, the hours and the costs that are being spent here under this budget for legal services?
Yeah, we have that on the bills that we receive from KP.
Is there a way that we can get that? So we can see where we're spending the dollars here?
Yeah, we can do something general. Won't have some of the exclusive stuff on it, but we can do that.
Right, I mean, there's nothing. Is it collective bargaining or anything that's driving this up? Is there anything unusual, or is it just we didn't fund enough, and what's the surprise, or what's the kind of services that we didn't anticipate? I know you're saying there's a lot more going on, but just trying to figure out what those things are.
Yeah, it's, as I said, other than, the planning board cases, there's a few appeals and a couple cases with the police department. There's nothing major, no other major cases.
Mike, do the department heads have to go through you before contacting the town council, so you have a good kind of?
They do.
Zach, go ahead.
Unless anybody has any questions, I would, offer a motion to table to the next meeting.
Second,
Why?
So do we get the list?
The list.
I have a motion and a second. Can I just ask one other question, like, in terms of, you said we had 96 last year, 70 this year. I know you're trying to project 55. Is it possible to reduce that a number and just, I mean, you could always come back again for more reserves. So just something
Mhm.
I think for the board to consider. Maybe we don't fund the full amount. We just fund what we need for right now in the next few months and then see where we go, where that lands us. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Anyone, any other further discussion on Zach's motion to table this? All right, so I'll start, Bill,
No.
Bonnie? Yes. Paul?
No.
Zach?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Trace? Yes. Brandon?
Yes.
Steve?
yes,
And I too am yes. 6 yes, 2 no. Seven yes, what's that? 7 yes.
I was just looking at
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
The math teacher.
Yeah, sure.
We all do.
All right, so what's next, Mike, on the reserve? And what-
Next is, reserve fund requests. The first one from data processing is for telephones and communications. The request is for $10,000 to get through the year. Right now, you can see the account is negative $669.25. And, main focus with this, that we probably didn't anticipate. If you just, in this building alone, the number of phones, I mean, we had no conference rooms before. Now we have 6 conference rooms with 6 phones. In every conference room, there's a phone. Every counter in every department now has a phone on it out front that they didn't have before, with a panic button on it. So that's 9 more phones right there. And same at the Council on Aging, they need to have phones in every room in case there's an issue. So it just, the costs were higher than anticipated.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Mike, over the past couple of years, when these buildings were being, proposed and under construction, I know we asked, have we accounted for all the needs of these new buildings? So how did we not account for extra phones with all the extra spaces and whatnot?
I don't know, we just didn't think that about a phone in every conference room. I mean, it just wasn't something that we thought about. I don't.
And is this the projection to pay the bills through the end of the year? Or
Yeah,
the end of the fiscal year?
yes,
Or is it for other things?
to the end of the fiscal year.
What did we budget for this year?
For phones. Yeah, for a budget.
I'm just curious what we increased to
Yeah.
your point, what we increased from 23-24 to 24-25.
Yeah, I don't have her budget with me.
Madam Chair. So Mike, help me understand, we added more phones, like you're saying you added more phone lines, I assume we own the phones, we purchased the phones. So,
Purchased phones and more phone lines, more lines for internet in every room.
so that drove up your utilities.
Mhm. Yes.
Any questions?
Yeah, does that mean I can call the conference room in the building from anywhere from outside? There's an external phone number for every conference room.
There is.
Does anybody?
I
use this
I
phone?
believe there is.
Is it- I haven't used a polyphone in a corporate setting in a decade.
Well, Teams.
So are people actually using them? Do we need all those phones in every conference room?
We don't know yet, to be honest with you.
Fair. Go with it. It feels like the kind of thing that you install because
Mhm.
we've installed it for 30 years, but things have changed pretty quickly in the last 5 to 10 in Zoom, in Teams and what have you. So maybe it's a place where you could cut some costs.
Other questions?
Motion to approve the transfer of 10,000.
A motion or a second?
Second,
Motion and a second. Bill, go ahead.
oh, you're supposed to start that way. Sure, yes.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Trace, yes. Brandon,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I am yes. as well. It's 9 yes.
The next is professional services for data processing, and which is looking for is 15,000. And the main thing here, some of the main issues were her field services for MX Consulting. They went up $4,000 this year that she didn't anticipate. Adobe increases, so there were 20 users before, now there's 25 users. And the addition of NeoGov for the police department, which they need for their new RMS system. And Paul, you can explain what that one is.
It says on this transfer request, phone bill payments, it looks like that might be from the other request from the same department.
Where are you looking? I'm sorry.
On the data processing transfer request for professional services, it just mentions the phone bill, so it's not for that.
Right.
Okay.
Make a motion, Madam Chair, that we approve $15,000 transfer from reserve.
Second,
Motion second, and this is for data processing. All right, motion a second. Bill,
yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Zach,
Yeah.
Gavin,
Yes.
Trace, yes. Brandon,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I am yes.
Right, next we go into budgets. And the first budget is select board. And office salary $76,986. longevity pay $1,000, incentive pay 3,000.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm trying to find it.
go
Hold
ahead.
on.
I'm sorry.
Page 1200 on the 10 pages.
Page 1200.
1242.
Surprised you're gonna ask for a transfer for paper.
Okay. Good. Okay. So the total for personnel services, $80,986. And then expenses, 2,700 total, no change from the previous year.
Madam Chair. And the salary increase is contractual?
Yeah, this isn't a union position. This is a wage and salary position.
Okay. So just normal
Yeah.
raise.
Questions on the select board budget?
Next is town manager. And this would cover the town manager and the office salaries for the assistant to the town manager. And expenses went up only $200 under longevity pay. Excuse me, the personal services went up that. The salary, we don't know. Looking at towns smaller than Norton, base salaries now are at 200,000 to start for a town manager. So with a new search starting, that's probably the ballpark you're looking in. So. And then expenses went from 27,050 to 27,900. Just slight increase under mileage and car allowance.
So my bet that is based on a 200,000 estimate for the town manager. This built into that number.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair,
Let's see.
Mike, I'm just curious, can you refresh me, what is going through contracted services, and then when do you expect expenses to start flowing through that line for the current fiscal year?
Sorry about that. Contracted services are the copier, I believe is under that.
So I don't see any expenses for
Yeah.
for fiscal year 25 at all yet.
Through December. I don't know if James is still on. What would you know, James, why there wasn't anything on there yet? Oh, I'm sorry, contracted services. I'm sorry, Steve. So contracted services, we have there, if we have HR questions where we have to bring in an HR consultant to do work or an investigation or anything like that, that's what we've been using that for. And we haven't had to use it this year so far.
And what was our assumptions when we came up with a $10,000 figure? How many hours or what rate?
So the assumption is about $35 an hour usually to have an HR consultant come in.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
That's it.
The longevity pay, like 2,700.
Mhm.
You're leaving, so where is that money going? There's no longevity if somebody that just started.
There is longevity for the assistant.
So is the office salary, where it says office salaries, is that just that one person, the assistant?
Yes,
So we went from FY 23, 102.9, FY 24, 108.1, FY 25, 116, FY 26, 126. Basically a 25% raise in 3 years, and almost a 10% raise from last year to this year.
so that was, if you remember, when we did the salary survey, there were a few positions that were under the average.
Yeah.
And this was one of those positions, and so it went up after the budget was approved last year. Money was appropriated at the fall town meeting to get for a payment, and then again this year it will get that boost. And
What's the recommendation, who's the salary range that was approved for that position?
I don't have that with me.
I thought you said everybody's salaries fell within the range,
They do.
getting bumped up.
They all fell within the ranges that were established. And this is still within the range, but it won't be up to the top of the range. It was I can't remember off my head. It was a position in the treasurer's office. It was the building commissioner. It was the COA director. This position, and maybe one other position that we're under.
Well, Mike, you said it's more of the supplements that we approved in the fall.
I think it was when we did the update in the fall, yeah.
I gotta say 10 grand, I mean, for 102 for the period, and that's tough. That's tough looking at the rest of the town.
And this is non-union, right?
Right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just for clarification, Mike.
Mhm.
Longevity, fringe benefits and stipends.
Yeah.
What's that? Fringe benefit of what?
So stipend still in there is town manager is paid 2,500 to be the hearings officer. And then the assistant longevity is 1,500 and deferred comp is 1,000.
But then what's 4,500 for the assistant? Which is under other stipend, 3,500 and 1,000.
I'll get that for you when I make my final, bring my recommendations in.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So not to beat a dead horse here, but, looking at the approved budget for 25, the assistant approved budget was 160,809. I go to the next page. I see base salary effective. Okay, effective 7/1. Right. Oh, shit, sorry.
I'll say one thing out there. You know, I'm in favor of our public servants being paid and compensated for the time. I'm certainly like, it's in the town's best interest, to attract talented candidates for these positions and keep them. I mean, but I don't know anybody else who's beaten inflation this year. So that's, again, as much as I would love to pay everybody, you know, what they should be paid. I just can't, that's a big number, that's a big jump, it's really hard to stomach, looking at, you know, talking about the school budget and everything else around town. So,
So Mike, I'm just looking back, that we supplemented the, in fall. 4,333, does that sound right?
Right.
Okay. And that was for that position,
Right.
so that 116 is already higher than
Right.
what we approved last year. Okay.
So so when you're looking at the comparison, it's again another 4,300 this year as part of that bump.
Madam Chair. Quick question. I guess, Mike, who approves raises for employees if they're non-contract
I
or
do,
non-union? I'm
The-
sorry,
the town manager.
you.
Like, how many non-union employees are there still in town?
It's about 8 or 9. I know, Bill, one of the questions one of those stipends I know for the assistant is to prepare the annual report, the booklet, the annual report. She does that on her own time. Okay.
Mike, that doesn't fall under her job description?
No, well, she does it, but she does the annual report on Saturdays and on time, extra time, not during her regular hours. And Finance Committee, 23,200.
Yeah, 2,300.
What's it? I mean, 2,300, 2,320.
That's a big raise there.
Obviously, the bulk of that is clerical services for 2,000, and it all depends on how long your meetings are. Quicker meetings will spend less.
Wow. Okay, but
Wasting the town's money. I think it was $2,000.
And Lindsay told me also if they started at 6, they'd be cheaper.
wow.
Paul,
Yeah,
Madam Chair,
but like getting here at 7.
it's not a big deal, it's $60, but what is advertising?
FinCom does one of the advertisements.
Public hearing.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Sun Chronicles going Must be well, right.
question on. income like that.
All right. Next is town accountant. James is still on. I'll go over a little bit for you. So office salaries, $227,396. Part-time wages, $22,185. Longevity pay, $2,500. The fringe benefits to employees, $3,000. Incentive pay, $5,500. The annual audit, $30,000. And then expenses went up slightly from $3,120 to $3,170. And seminars and conferences went up $50. And that full-time staff, you have the town accountant, the assistant town accountant, and then a part-time person.
Madam Chair, I guess this is gonna be more of a philosophical question. So, like the assistant town manager and town accountant and whatnot, they're salaried people, correct?
Correct.
And so even though we say 40 hours a week, most people I know who are in salaried positions sometimes have to do extra work. They're not going to get paid for it. That's the expectation of being a salaried employee.
Mhm.
So again, is some of these stipends and fringe benefits for doing something on the weekend as a salaried employee really needed? As a salaried employee, I don't expect to get a bonus from my boss if I have to work over the weekend.
So in this case, the stipend, there's a certification stipend for the town clerk. Excuse me, town accountant. Sorry, James.
Madam Chair.
Yes, James?
Yeah, the stipends I received are not for working on the weekends. As Mike said, one of them is for being a certified government, keeping my certification as a governmental town accountant. The fringe benefits is part of my contract that I signed with the town almost 3 years ago. It's basically deferring 3,000 of my salary into a deferred compensation plan. The longevity pay went slightly up because I'm gonna be with the town 20 years next year, so it goes up $300. And it's basically not unusual in town government for people to get stipends. Maybe it is in the private sector, I don't know, but this is not different than any other year. If you look at the 23, 24, 25, the stipends are the same amount. They pretty much haven't gone up. It's kind of frustrating that it seems like we have over 500 employees when you count the teachers and everybody else, and every year they get hung up on 3 people that you can identify by name, me, Michelle, and I won't name the other one, but it's the same exact scenario every year. We get singled out. Nobody cares about anybody else but only us. I just find it kind of, uncomfortable, if that would be the way to say it. That, I have a contract that was signed by the selectmen, by the town manager. If you don't agree with it, maybe you should talk to them and have them reduce my salary. I mean, do what you have to do.
James, I will say we spent about 3 meetings talking about our $2,600 dog officer search one time. So we tend to pick apart, the minutia, and I think I don't think it's anything personal. We certainly all appreciate, the hard work that you do. I think we just trying to understand, how, where all these numbers are coming from.
Madam Chair. Yeah, just to reiterate, I'm not trying to pick on individual people, but it's really hard to kind of figure out a budget when you're mentally thinking salary. And then there's all these other things that when you put it into play, increase that percentage, sometimes significantly, and we're still trying, to stick to the 2.5, Prop 2.5. That's as much as you can grow things. So, for things to be increasing exponentially higher than that, you kind of sit back and go, well, that's why the numbers don't work. And we're just trying to get a handle on how and why it's happening. So it's certainly nothing personal.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair?
I think James made a good point when he said those other benefits haven't changed in 3 years, so they're not increasing the percentage at all.
Steve, did you have a question?
I do, just a statement. Again, I just want to point out that the town side has been pointing out and separating these components of their salary for many years. They're disclosing it when we go through the budget process fully. I wish I could say that for all town departments. So, and I want to reiterate, there's no picking or pointing out or pulling out and singling out anyone individually. But I also think we have to balance when we see this information, it's full disclosure. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, when you do hire a new town manager, you are not going to get a town manager that comes here without a deferred comp plan, a car allowance, probably around 7,000. It's just this is what we're competing with. We're losing our building commissioner to another town, which is going to be a very tough position to fill. And I hate when people say, well, Norton's a stepping stone. What good is it if you train people for 3 years and then they leave to go get paid it costs you more to have to hire somebody else, train that person. And I just hate to hear them say, well, Norton's a stepping stone. People can come here and then go somewhere else. Then you're constantly turning over. So it's not a good philosophy. So we try and stay competitive in any way we can.
Madam Chair. I'm with you on that, Mike. And that's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I was saying, it's in the town's best interest to attract and keep good talent, and that does cost money. I think what we're all balking at is thinking that this is just sort of a non-contractual thing where we're going up 10% here and there. But what I am hearing now is that maybe there is a contract. So could you tell us more about what James's comment about that there is a contract here? So
James does have a contract, yes.
So, and is that the case for the previous budget too, where we were discussing a large salary increase? So maybe it's less of a discussion and sort of like someone who just decided this year to make it that number. There's something.
Yeah, no, the other one was based on the salary survey that was done.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one is contractual.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
James is the only employee that I don't hire. James works for the select board.
Madam Chair. Can you explain to me, maybe I missed it, the part-time wages? Looks like the part-time wages, 28,000, expedited in 23, then down to 8,000 in 24. Then we approved 19,000 for this year, but we've only used $242. And now we're asking for 22,000 for next year.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, James.
Yeah, we had a part-time person who had been working for us for a very long time. She was at the top range of the hourly rates back in 22, 23. She retired. And then during the 24, 25, we had a hard time finding someone to fill the position. So the position was vacant most of those years. We finally found someone recently who's now working the full 18 hours a week. So we expect her to get the full 22,185 or close to it next year. But the position was unfilled for some time because we were having a hard time finding applicants that could be flexible enough to work the hours that we needed.
Well, those funds were being turned back the past couple of years?
They have, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
And Madam Chair, one more comment I want to make about my salary. I did not get a 10% increase. Last year I got a 4% increase. I was eligible for up to 5%, but I did not get the full 5. I only got 4. This year I believe I am budgeted for up to 5. A lot of the union contracts, depending on whether they're moving a lane or not, they get way more than that sometimes. And nobody really questions them as much as they do when it's, one of us. That's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Good one.
James, somebody who was intimately worked with you for years. You're a real bargain. And one of the things that you took on as well recently is the ability to help invest our money in working with the other people to get the high interest rate that we got last year that helped out big time. So thank you for all you do, James. Congratulations on your 20 years.
I second that.
Thank you.
Questions?
All right. Next is legal. So this year we did 70,000. 23 we spent 93,159.44. 24 we spent 96,705. So right now I'm looking at 90,000 as proposed for next year. Obviously, we don't know, but at least that would get us closer to that 93, 96 than the 70,000. And it's something, obviously, we could do the same again and make this low and then hold a reserve fund if we need it at the end of the year. But right now, the recommended would be 90,000.
Yeah, something like this, I don't mind. I mean, I feel like the 70 wasn't ever realistic.
Mm.
And so we knew that was gonna come out of the reserve at some point. I'd rather be realistic on the numbers and not, and use that money for things we don't anticipate.
Madam Chair, Mike, you're anticipating them with the reserve fund request that you could be up to 125 this current fiscal year.
Madam Chair. Like, is there anybody ever give any thought to, I'm sure we're spending over 100,000 this year. And I'm sure the schools have their own attorney that is spending probably more with all the cases they got with kids, of hiring a town attorney, like that works for the town and supports the schools and split it, I don't know, whatever it is, the breakdown.
Since I've been here, we never looked at that. No. Because
Towns that have a shared between the schools and the.
no, usually like the schools will use our attorney for certain things, but school attorneys are specialized in education related things. So usually the schools would have their own attorney. And, if you were going to hire an attorney, our own attorney, you're going to pay a lot more than 90,000. And
I'm guessing schools
yeah.
are 150 at least, or even more,
Yeah.
like all the cases they have.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you have $300,000 to play with.
Yeah.
And, you could probably get somebody for that.
Mike, with K and P too, you got an abundance of like 50 different specialists that they have immediate access to.
Right.
They have a specialist for.
that's what, and a lot of times if you had some of the towns, I know like in Holbrook where I used to work, we did have a town attorney. Then we went out and hired KP. Because a lot of times what the town attorney would do is he would go out and if there was a complicated case, he'd go get another attorney to handle that case, and then you were paying both of them. All right.
Questions on that?
Blow this up a little. This is municipal building. Purchases of services, that's for the cleaning and trash services. And this municipal building is we handle this building. We're trying, as we talked about with the fire department, spinning off some of the stuff that we used to pay for over there that they're taking on. We still do pay electricity for this building and highway and Chartley Fire Station and what's the other station? Yeah, Barrowsville Station. And the repair and maintenance of buildings is that also covers all the town buildings. And repair maintenance of equipment, same thing.
Including the council on aging?
The repair maintenance of buildings, yes. Yep.
Mike, the gas then, the fire headquarters is gonna have your own gas bill now, separate, no budget for.
Yep. Yeah, we only have gas in this building for the generator. And this gas is also, this covers the animal control, which has propane down there.
Mike, did anything go down now that the town, the old town hall is torn down? I know that we were paying to keep some of the things from the old town halls that the save us money anywhere.
Repair, maintenance of equipment went down. Propane, natural gas went down. Electricity went down. And
We're down with all the heat pumps that you're using to heat this place?
we have a lot of energy credits from the Hill Street landfill, so
5 times the size.
Madam Chair. Mike, I'm just hopeful that we can actually maintain this building going forward, because that was one of the downsides of the old town hall, and I'm gonna maintain.
right, yeah. And up for a year, everything's under warranty, so after next October, then our warranty will be up. The next thing, and James is still on, it's this was brought forward by the auditors. This is on the warrant, Article 14. And this would establish and fund compensated absences trust fund. So this would be to fund sick leave buyback and vacation earned for people that leave or retire. Right now, they estimated that we have a $2.7 million liability, and their thought was that we should have, similar to like OPEB, we should have an account that we start putting money in towards that. James, you want to speak on that anymore?
Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, in the past, well, over 15 years ago, the town started funding these expenses through special articles at town meeting, where money would be used to fund the retirement separation expense. You may remember those. And then that money then would be in the article, and we would build it up and transfer money from the articles into the department, whether it be the police or fire department, that needs the money once someone retires and they have a payout. The funds have been building up on some of those articles, where we now have enough that we probably should create this type of fund so that we remove the separation expenses right out of the operating budget. That way it doesn't skew the numbers, because right now, for instance, say a police officer retires, there's a big payout. We transfer funds into that budget. Now that particular year, the budget looks like it's a little higher than it should be. And this way, what we'll do is we will be paying those expenses right out of the special fund that we're asking to be created right now. So we wouldn't need any funds at this time to set up the fund. We will just be asking to transfer all of the existing money that has been previously voted for separation expenses, which would have close to $1 million.
Madam Chair?
Oh, Steve, I see what's coming from. Good,
So,
Steve.
so James, just, I think what I heard, you're saying the liability is about over 2 million we funded in the past years. What'd you say, 1.5 million?
That's unfunded, Steve.
It's unfunded, okay, all right.
Basically, if we create the account, it will be funded by about $1 million
So that funding comes from where potentially?
from the retirement separation articles from the past that still have money leftovers. If you see the list of articles that I sent out last year, the question came up, I believe, from one of the members, why is that money, so much money sitting there?
Yep.
And we explained that we had the liability of over 2.5 million at the time, and that was to offset part of the liability, but it was being accounted for within the general fund. This way, the liability and the revenue and the expenses are moved right out of the general fund. So when you look at the monthly report I send you, that money won't show up there as an available source. It could confuse some people when they look at it.
Okay,
It's
And-
just cleaner to have it separate, similar to what we have the OPEB. The only difference between the OPEB fund and this fund is that this one will actually be using. So when someone retires, we will be paying them out of there. So this account will have expenses strictly related to the pay vacation or sick buyback of the employees.
all right.
And
what-
then eventually, if the fund runs low, we will fund it the same way we've been funding the retirement separation articles
Okay,
on a pay-as-you-go basis.
okay, and what's covered under separation? And is there any kind of plan to
The only
potentially
thing-
limit these in the future?
The only thing that's covered is sick buyback and vacation.
Right, but is there any?
Every union has a different set of rules. A lot of the majority of the money is used for sick time buyback, which
Any
a lot of
kind
the unions allow up to 50% of their unused sick time to be bought back when they retire from. But they have to retire from the town. They cannot. They're not payable if they just go to work for another town or if they leave employment early.
Thank you.
And as far as I don't know, if the next negotiations, if there's going to be any changes to the benefits, that's up to the next round of negotiations.
Okay.
It was always my impression that every year when we voted those articles, that money was for somebody that retired that year, and it was going in, going out. So in theory, we're sitting with $1 million. You already have
50.
a fund. Basically, you're formalizing it. And it was never, and I think the 5 years I've been, you never explained to me that we're putting this into basically a stabilization fund for retirees or people leaving the town. Did anybody else understand it differently that's been here for a while?
I think I understood that sometimes people chose to take it over a longer stretch, and we approved it, yes.
And-
And we approved it at the beginning and then it got stretched out. That's how, is that where that comes
And
from?
Madam Chair, if I could, another thing that would happen, well, I can always remember Paul Schleicher being in my office saying, when are you transferring those funds into my account? And we'd be like, Paul, we're waiting to see what you do with your salary account. If you're not going to make it through the year with your current salary account, we'll transfer money in, but
I think that's
So-
where some of that extra money.
Right,
might-
so-
If I had an extra 50,000 at the end of the year, I
Right.
could actually use to pay off an employee that was retired versus yanking it all out of that money.
so when the chief would come to us and say, look, I've got these retirements, sometimes they'd retire, sometimes they wouldn't retire. And we'd get the money appropriated and then we'd be like, Chief, you got enough money in your budget to cover it. You don't need more money, and he'd cover it in his budget. So the money would sit there.
Madam Chair.
Oh, go ahead.
So to verify what James just said, though, there's $1 million that's gonna find its way into this.
Mhm.
Unlike OPEB, though, we're not gonna think of funding this, any amount of money, just as the need arises.
You could look at it either way. You could amend the financial policy and you could say, look, we're going to put $5,000 a year into the uncompensated absences fund, or you could say, when it gets below 500,000, we'll stop putting money into it. Something like that. James, I don't know if you have ideas.
Yeah, it's an interest-bearing account too, so we're hoping that it will make a little bit of interest and it will stay in the fund. And it all depends on how many people retire in a given year. If nobody retires, the money sits there and it accumulates a little bit of money. It all depends on how fully funded you want to be. If you want to be 50% funded, 100% funded, then you would have to contribute more. But obviously, we wouldn't want to have that fund go below a certain level. Otherwise, the money won't be there when needed.
But that hasn't been established yet.
No, we would have to adopt this chapter 40, section 13D, which is the article that we're discussing right now. We were pretty much doing it on a pay-as-you-go system where we would fund articles. And over the years, we've been accumulating some of those articles due to the fact that some of the retirees elect to get paid over 3 years. So the money stay there. Then if the fire or police department, which are usually the bigger payouts, go to those departments, if they had excess funds on their operating budget at the end of the year, we wouldn't transfer the money out of the article. We would just leave it there so that it would help with our own unfunded liability. That way, when the auditors look at the compensated absences at the end of the year, they can see that at least there is some money set aside to offset part of that $2.7 million liability. But now, by accepting this article and voting at a town meeting, it will allow us to run it like a revolving account almost, whereas if somebody retires from highway and we can just pay with the authorization of the town manager, those charges for the sick time can be charged directly to this fund, thereby reducing the fund. And when it gets to a certain level, we can either add more money, the same way we were adding money to the retirement separation articles, or keep depleting the fund until it goes to zero, if that's the wish of the finance committee and the town.
I think at some point it would be wise to have a conversation and put it into our policy manual. I think that would be good when we go out to borrow, to have that added into our policy manual so the actuarial Standard & Poor's can see that we're making a commitment with our OPEB and with our unfunded absences, uncompensated absences.
Mike, why wouldn't we add a line item to each department, just like the fire, police, town hall, DPW? And just put an unfunded liability, just fund it year to year. I mean, those expenses are there. I know you don't know the exact number, but you know you're given so much vacation time and say, okay, you know, the larger department is, let's say they fire, you know, they're gonna put in
I think,
$100,000, I don't.
yeah, I think that that's the same argument that we use with OPEB that the actuarials don't like. We say, look, we fund it every year. We just do it in our budget. They don't want to hear that. They want to see that you're making a commitment to set the funds aside.
Questions? Did you ever for a vote on that?
It's up to you.
Make a motion to establish the, vote in favor of Article 14 as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second, Bill,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Trace, yes. Brandon,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I would yes as well.
That's all I have.
Anyone have anything else?
Next meeting, but it's next week, right?
Yeah, next week,
When,
next week, right?
yeah, when you take the roll call, I don't know whether you need this or not, but if everyone could say their full name so that she gets used to.
Want me to spell it?
All right,
Do we officially want to, since we postponed it last week, vote on our starting time? Or are we,
Oh, yeah.
did we postpone or did we just defer?
I think we deferred it.
And they like in the town meeting on Wednesday night, next week.
Oh,
Different topic.
I got thrown. Did you see me? I was
Yeah,
like,
no, I was
my
saying
hamster
as far as-
stopped running.
Two meetings next week, then.
That's
But-
Wednesday.
So fun,
But yeah, we deferred it last week
Okay.
with the hope of more people.
okay.
Who we missing tonight?
Um,
Yeah, this is the-
I wasn't here. I don't want to change it. You saw, hard for me to get it by 7.
You want a motion or anything?
Well, does anyone, I guess, does anyone want to make a motion?
You don't have to vote if you're not changing it.
All right, seconds. Everyone,
Here.
And what time is our meeting on Wednesday?
do
Special?
we need to meet before then?
But that, I thought that's what we were, yeah.
Oh,
If we have a meeting, it's typically before, so what time before?
we've already voted on both articles, Mike, right?
Right. So you really,
don't-
Nothing for us to meet on then, so we can just go
Right.
to the town meeting.
Okay.
Apologize.
All right, I will make the motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second,
So you want all of us to say our names? Is that what you said? Okay, so just go down.
was that a yes? We have to say our names?
yes.
Bill Rotundi, yes.
Bonnie Yazikevich, good luck. Yeah.
I'd say the other,
I'll tell you.
yes.
Before I
Paul Schleicher, yes.
Zach Tillis, yes.
Gavin Cabbage, like the vegetable. Yes.
Yes.
Brandon Noble, yes.
And then Steve.
Stephen Evans, yes.
Okay, so